HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, they raised their hand each time they gave gold. They raised their hand and showed it. I'm giving this away. Why? Why? Isn't it embarrassing? No, I'm not embarrassed of my tshuva. You see, this thing, this gold, this perversion, this immorality was what's keeping me distant from HaShem. I'm giving it away. To what? I'm giving it to the Tabernacle. I'm giving it to the Beit HaMikdash. I'm done with it. What was so special about the Tabernacle aside from Moshe Rabbeinu? I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu is enough. He's keneged kulam. He's against the whole nation. He's equivalent, as if he's valued the same as if against the entire nation. But I actually saw something today that was very extraordinary, that I think is gives us a little bit more clarity as far as why does Hashem specify the gold, the quantity of gold, a few extra words before and after the gold? Why does you repeat it again this week when it was already mentioned last week? And let's go delve into it. And how does that connect also to the first and second Beit HaMikdash? So let's see. We see that this week in Parashat Pekudei, the Torah tells us in chapter 38, the beginning of the parasha, in verse number 25, that all the gold that was used for the work, for the holy work, the raised gold was 29 kikal, 730 shekels in the sacred shekels. The silver of the censers of the assembly was 100 kikal, 1,775 shekels in the sacred shekels, a bekah for every head, a half shekel in the sacred shekels. For all intents and purposes, for most people that have not looked at Onkelos, or the Gemara, or the Midrash, or have had a chidush, everything I just read, you're asking yourself right now, what did he just say? Did he just curse me out? Is he making fun of me? Why is he reading this? What does that have to do with me? Let me tell you. Onkelos tzaddik says, what does all of this mean? All the gold that was used for the work, for all the holy work, the raised gold was 29 kikar. Raised gold. Why? What is this raised gold? What is this raised gold? Backtrack to last week's Parashat Vayekel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in chapter 35, verse number 22. And even before it, in verse number 21, where it says, every man whose heart inspired him came, and everyone whose spirit motivated him brought the portion of HaShem for the work of the oil moed, for all its services, and for the sacred garments. The men came with the women. Everyone whose heart motivated him brought bracelets, nose rings, ring, body ornaments, every kind of gold ornament, and every man who raised a raising of gold to HaShem. So again, we see this language of a person that was motivated, that was inspired, and we gave this raised gold. What is this raised gold? What is this raised gold? So first and foremost, Onkelos explains, know that when the Torah says that each person came and brought the gold, it was due to their heart being inspired. And Onkelos says that means it's everyone that their spirit perfected them. Meaning that they were doing tshuva, and through that tshuva, they got the inspiration to donate. Because they were doing tshuva, they got the inspiration to donate. But not just any type of tshuva where they started keeping Shabbat, kosher, but they continued wasting seed and being immoral and cheating and lying. No. Not just any type of tshuva. They were doing a specific type of tshuva. A tshuva that inspired and perfected them. And in fact, it led them to give an enormous amount of gold. Enormous amount of gold. I mean, if we look at the comparison here, we see that this gold was almost $100 million worth of gold, whereas the silver was almost $4 million. First and foremost, you should know the gold and the silver was given by two different people. While the gold was given by everybody that was inspired by their tshuva, they gave an enormous amount. They weren't obligated to do it. It's just simply anybody that was inspired to do it gave. The silver, on the other hand, was an obligation on a specific group of people. Who are those people? The people that were fit to be the soldiers of Am Yisrael. Any man between the ages of 20 to 60 had to give a half a shekel. Had to give the silver. Why? Because they had to protect themselves from Ayin Hara when HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu to do a census and count the people. Count how many soldiers we have. And it can't be anybody as a soldier. It has to be righteous people. People that fulfill mitzvot. If a person was a Mechalel Shabbat, he didn't survive the day, they would kill him. If a person was an idol worshiper, he died. If a person was scared to go to war, can't be in war. He just got married. Can't go to war. Just build a house. Can't go to war. So you're looking at these people that went to war were really, really righteous people. But in order to even fit the description, they had to be men, no women soldiers, and two, be between the ages of 20 and 60. And several times in the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks Moshe to do a census. And that census is something that we have to know about because we're not allowed to count Jews, and because it brings Ayin Hara, it brings evil eye. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, instead of counting the Jews, count something. Each one of them has to bring a silver coin, has to bring a half a shekel, and you count the shekels instead of counting the Jews. Today, if you are looking to count, let's say for a minyan, you count shoes, or you count kippot, or you count talit. Especially if unless you're in a keilah where the young men that are unmarried don't wear a talit, then you'll have a problem counting. But the point being is that you can't count Jews. Not allowed to count Jews. It brings ayin hara, it brings evil eye. But these specific people, these soldiers, were righteous people with tzadikim, showing us that the people that went to war to defend Am Yisrael didn't need to have specific battle skills and guns and knives and all types of fighting skills. No, they need to be holy. Why? Because once you're holy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the rest. This is actually how the Midrash and the Zohar Kadosh explain how did the Maccabees, that were all tzadikim learning in Bet Midrash all day, how did they beat the vicious army of the Greeks? I mean, the Greeks were big fighters. How did these little avrechim that were maybe 150 pounds soaking wet, how did they beat so many of them? Forget about the quantity. How did they beat even one? The Chachamim teach us that as soon as they held the sword, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the sword do whatever it wants. Whatever he wants the sword. Meaning, all they had to do is hold the sword. Their ishtadlut was hold the sword. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did the rest. In so many words, one sword started killing thousands of people. Which is something that a human being doesn't have the ability. This is also the reason why you're never going to find a big Gedol Hador, big tzaddik telling people, listen, why don't you go learn karate? Why don't you go learn martial arts of other kinds? Why don't you go buy yourself a building full of guns? That's not the way of Am Yisrael. We're not saying that you need to be delusional and walk around on enemy lines thinking that God's going to protect you. Obviously, you have to, have common sense. But the amount of energy that people spend in these types of things, of thinking that they're going to defend themselves, they don't realize who's really running the world. So here we see that the smaller part of money that came for the tabernacle came from the righteous soldiers. $4 million worth of silver. The bigger amount came from Baalei TeShuva. But why is it Baalei TeShuva? Why? What do they do TeShuva for exactly? Says that the Onkelos says that these people were people that were perfected, people that did TeShuva. What do they do TeShuva? What's the hint of them doing TeShuva? Based on what they gave. What did they give? The men came with the women, meaning that both men and women had to do TeShuva here. Everyone whose heart motivated him brought bracelets, nose rings, ring, and body ornaments. Chumaz, which Onkelos calls it machuz. What's a machuz? What's a chumaz? What's a body ornament? The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 64a, says this was a immorality ornament that they would put on their sex organ. Meaning, this specific donation was not just a donation of gold. It was simply them raising their hands in proud, listen, I'm done with this immorality. I'm done with this immorality. I'm done with these jokes. I'm done with desecrating Hashem's name. I'm done with hiding all types of perversions in the closet. I'm done with it. I'm giving away all of these perverted tools, all of these perverted things that are in there, and I'm done. And instead of what our logic would say, why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu want these filthy things that they put, these gold things that they put on their male member or female members? Like, it's disgusting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's dafkai want it. Why dafkai want it? Because that's their tshuva. That's what shows me that they're really doing tshuva. Many times you're going to see people donate a lot of money to a bet knesset, a yeshiva, but you're going to see those very same people that bought the aliyah on Yom Kippur, that bought the different things on the high holidays, drive on Shabbat, drive on the holiday, desecrate Hashem's name, be corrupt in business, do all types of things that show that that donation was simply an advertisement of nothing good. It was an advertisement that they have, that Hashem gave them money. It was not an advertisement of their connection to Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says they raised their hand each time they gave gold. They raised their hand and showed it. I'm giving this away. Why? Why? Isn't it embarrassing? No, I'm not embarrassed of my tshuva. You see, this thing, this gold, this perversion, this immorality was what's keeping me distant from Hashem. I'm giving it away. To what? I'm giving it to the Tabernacle. I'm giving it to the Beit HaMikdash. I'm done with it. This gold symbolized tshuva. Tshuva for the idolatry that we fell for at the Mount Sinai, the golden calf. The lack of rebuke for the people that even they didn't fall for the idolatry itself, the golden calf, they didn't rebuke those that did. So that was tshuva for those two things. But also the gold represented a tshuva and an elevation of the soul for tshuva of immorality. Now, this is something extremely significant to the extent that it gave a life of its own to the Beit HaMikdash of the desert, to the tabernacle, that the first and second Beit HaMikdash did not have. How do we know it didn't have? We see that it may have had it at some point, but the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash was for what? For idolatry, for murder, for immorality. Idolatry, murder, and immorality. These are the very same things that this gold represented. So although a lot more gold was donated to the first and second Beit HaMikdash, that gold was not of the same spiritual value as the gold we see in the Mishkan in Parashat Pekudei. Because the gold of the Mishkan was gold that came, was tzedakah that came from Baalei TeShuva, from people that really meant that they wanted a connection with Hashem and they're willing to sacrifice all of the garbage of the past. They are done with it.